We are once again in a period when rationality and secularism are on the rise. Such a tendency has gained strength with each century since the Enlightenment. I hope we can dedicate ourselves to a thriving and prevailing secularity like that of the Carvaka and Lokayata, of Lucretius, of Diderot, and in this country, Thomas Paine and Robert Ingersoll. We cannot afford, nor can our earth, the destruction of rationality and the rise of supernaturalism and superstition once again. I am sure we can prove ourselves worthy of the great people who came before us and bequeath to us the serious thoughts and the secular wisdom that to this day has not lost its sterling worth or its inspiration. Thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to our discussion. And now, just before we start talking, my latest New York review of books, it just came a few days ago. It was very, very timely because it has an article, and we have it posted on Atheist Scholar if you want to read the whole article. And it's very, very good. It's by Wendy Doniger. It's called India's Censorship by the Batra Brigade. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read what she says at the beginning. She's a professor, a really well-known professor, an expert in Indian philosophy, literature, a translator. She has incredible credentials. She calls it the event. In February of this year, after a long career of relative obscurity in the ivory tower, I suddenly became notorious. In 2010, Penguin India had published a book of mine, The Hindus, An Alternative History. The book is about, not just the male Brahmins, but it's about the point of view of the Hindu religion through women and also from the people, the peasants and what have you, which won 2 awards in India. In 2012, the Ramath Goenka Award, and in 2013, the Colonel James Todd Award. But within months of its publication in India, a then 81-year-old retired headmaster named Dina Nath Batra, a proud member of the far-right organization, and I can't pronounce the organization, it's the RSS. You can read it when you go to the Atheist Scholar. Had brought the first of a series of civil and criminal actions against the book, arguing that it violated Article 295A of the Indian Penal Code, which, quote, forbids deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings of any class of citizens. After fighting the case for 4 years, Penguin India, which had recently merged with Bertelsmann, abandoned the lawsuit, agreeing to cease publishing the book. It also agreed to pulp all remaining copies, but as it turned out, not a single book was destroyed. All extant copies were quickly bought up from the bookstores. When Penguin told me it was all over, I thought it was all over and was grateful for the long run we'd had. They had 4 years. There wasn't anything special about my book. Batra had been attacking other books for some time, but what was special and unexpected was the volume and intensity and duration of the outcry and reaction to Penguin's action. Other authors withdrew their books from Penguin, defying it to pulp them too. People accused the publishers of cowardice for giving up without even taking the case to court, in contrast with their former courage and successfully, and at very great expense, defending Lady Chatterley's lover in 1960. One Bangalore law firm issued a legal notice suggesting that the penguin logo be changed from a penguin to a chicken. I like that. She explains, though, in the article that it would have been hard for them. They might have easily lost the case the way the law is written. Here's just one thing. Another passage in my book, she says, outraged Batra's religious feelings for a different reason. I wrote, placing the Ramayana in its historical context demonstrates that it is a work of fiction created by human authors who lived at various times. And this was his complaint, that in this book, at page number 662, the author has hurt the religious feelings of millions of Hindus by declaring that the Ramayana is a fiction. This act of the author breaches various sections of the Indian Penal Code. I mean, and this goes on and on like that, but I wanted to finish by reading you. They have been mounting an attack, as the Muslims have done, and of course the Christians do all the time, of trying to get their points of view in our American public schools textbooks. Now, I knew that the Muslims were doing a horrendously awful job with that, and of course we all know what the Christians try to do all the time. But I had no idea, frankly, till I read this article, that the Hindus were doing it. In 2005, they met with an ad hoc committee that included a consortium of California Department of Education staff and persuaded them to approve a number of changes in the way school textbooks presented Hinduism. Some of this was just to try to give them a more favorable opinion, of Indian customs and history. This didn't go over, but what they really wanted to do, and Thapar and Winslow, two experts, went on, if such reasonable changes, as I just mentioned, comprise the full extent of the desired amendments, there would be no controversy. There are, however, other agendas that are being pushed that are oddly familiar. The first Indian civilization, they tried to say, is 1900 million years old. The Ramayana and Mahabharata are historical texts to be understood literally. And ancient Hindu scriptures contain precise calculations of the speed of light and exact distances between planets in the solar system. Very nice. And they've also been trying to say that sati or sati, the burning of women on their husband's funeral pyres, is a Muslim practice imported into India.
Sorry.
That's not true, because I just did 2 parts. I mean, they're already up on AtheistScholar.org, and I'll be reading them. And it was religion vis-a-vis women, and there's no question that was an early custom even before Hinduism came into effect. It was not imported by the Muslims, for once. We like to blame them for everything, but that they didn't import. So you can see this attack that they're mounting even in America. Wendy Doninger says we should be careful. We haven't, actually since Ingersoll tried, as I just found out, a blasphemy case back in the late 1800s, there has not been a blasphemy case brought in the United States since. I mean, he heaped such scorn and, he showed what nonsense it was. But Wendy Doninger says we must be careful here in the States. She's a professor here in the United States.
Do you know there's still a blasphemy law on the books in Michigan?
I believe it.
Oh, yeah.
I meant to show you the article, but I don't find it here. But if anyone's interested, I can get you the exact reference.
I would be interested.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And nobody has challenged it to say you have to take this out of the books.
It's on other books too, but they don't bring the cases. But it's possible,
They don't bring the
when they're
cases,
on the
doesn't mean
books.
it'll be thrown out, but just having it on the books
It's
is,
really bad.
It's bad
Because it
enough.
can be invoked again.
Yeah.
yeah.
in bad
I would like
times.
to challenge it and say you have to take that out.
That would be funny. I think if somebody would challenge it, they would probably remove it.
Just don't use the law's name in vain.
Yeah, exactly. Well, any comments?
Were these people slaughtered? How did they die out?
We don't know. Probably they just, their works were probably destroyed and they probably wandered off. We don't know.
But
We don't know
even
for
if
sure.
they wandered off, I mean, their descendants would still be around somewhere in some city or a town.
Well,
Maybe
remember, they were
so.
philosophers. How many people have descendants? How many philosophers have descendants that are philosophers?
It wasn't any kind of ethnicity or a location where
No.
you could descend
No,
from.
I think from what I've read, it became very powerful in some provinces. I mean, some rulers had adopted the philosophy. But it gradually just was, it died out, it was knocked out, it was like,
But were they persecuted? Were they executed?
that we don't know. We don't know. Believe me, I've really, really tried to find more out, and I can't. And what I discovered when I was reading up on things that the historians and experts don't really know for sure. As you saw, I read different, theories.
Do you have any idea how pervasive atheism was and is through India now?
It's pretty pervasive. Norm would know more about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Because he's
there are
one of the
atheist
American atheists, and I
groups
think they've had
in
speakers, haven't
in
they?
India, since the independence of India from Britain. There's been modern day atheist groups,
Yeah.
and some of them have formed alliance with like the American Atheists, so that they send people over here, we
Yeah.
send people over there.
So are we talking about 1%, 10%?
I wish I could tell you that. I don't know. India is a very spiritual, superstitious country
Yeah.
where the religion and the superstition is mixed in with everything else that you do in life. It doesn't have the separation that even in the United States it has. And I see a lot of my Indian coworkers, they wear this little string tied to their wrist. Have you ever seen that?
Mhm.
It looks like a very cheap bracelet,
What is
but
it?
it's a prayer string.
Oh, that's what it is.
It's a prayer string. That's
Ah.
Hindu
that would be, yeah, that would be Hindu. And they, you know, the men, the women, you see the women with the dot. So they do a lot, and these are professionals. These are computer programmers, doctors, scientists. They still cling to their religious.
Though they are becoming more educated, you would think that
You would think that they'd move
there's
away.
an inverse
Do they cling
relationship.
to it, or is it just a more cultural and habitual? Or are they actually praying on their little prayer bracelet?
They're probably
They
praying
know.
on it.
I don't think they even would be able to tell you. Yeah, it's so much part of their culture. Do they believe it, or are they just doing it?
Right.
We drive on the right side of the road, is it because we believe that that's the best side of the road to drive on, or,
Yeah,
you know, why do we do
There's
it?
no 13th floor on the building.
yeah, that's a good point,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no
14.
13, 14.
Oh, yeah.
Part of
I've
it's
never been in a
cultural,
building.
part of it's
We all know it's
religious.
superstitious,
Yeah, but we
still
still,
do it.
we still follow it. I still throw salt over my shoulder, I'm sorry, I hate to admit it. But
Shame
it's-
on you.
I know,
Stop
well,
it.
but I'm gonna try to stop it.
But that's exactly what I'm asking. I mean, it's just habitual.
But you're trying to excuse their irrational behavior and saying
I agree.
somehow it's okay because.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's, we all, well, how many times has someone in this room accidentally said, "Oh my God"?
Or blessing.
But that,
Oh, I
No,
say
I
it
never
all,
say
I always say, oh my
Yeah.
But
God,
that's
all
what
the
I'm
time.
saying. That's a habit.
I say
none of us
Jesus
believe,
Christ,
right?
you know.
Exactly. So, but that's habitual.
Mm-hmm.
but we're not saying, oh God help me, we wouldn't say something like
But
It's
why
just-
would we even reference God if we don't
Well,
believe it? It's habitual.
But that's the
It's
beginning of a
habitual
prayer.
because
It's cultural.
Oh my God,
habitual.
would you please take mercy on me?
But
God
yeah,
only
but you
knows
know
what
what,
to do.
I mean, people say that, they were saying that in the Renaissance, when you see the manuscripts and they say like odds bods or uds buds, it's like God's body, and it was heretical and blasphemous, actually, I'm sorry, not heretical, it was blasphemous to say anything like that about God, so they would say odds buds, and everybody knew what it was. It was an oath,
It's
and
kind of
like,
like you say frick when you really mean.
yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then they would say, how would they say God's blood? I can't remember. Anyway, but it was they would it was always uds something.
Mhm.
But I heard heck is for people who don't believe in gosh.
I try to say for dog's sake, or oh my dog,
Oh, I always say God. I've given up.
or OMG instead of
I say
OMG.
I say
ONG.
yeah.
Oh no God.
I said that a lot when I
ONG.
yeah. Oh my no God. Yeah, I try to do that.
but it's almost a sign that you don't believe because you're using it so carelessly, you
Yeah.
know, like,
Mhm.
oh Jesus.
All right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, if you were a true Christian fanatic, you wouldn't say that. You
I
wouldn't
think
say
you're not
that.
supposed to speak that way, are you? I mean,
You
I don't
wouldn't.
know.
Yeah, God.
God
damn
only
it.
knows why we do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I'd say what the Hindus do here is more of a religious bent. And maybe they just feel an obligation to their ancestors or to their family to
For their
continue.
culture,
Yeah.
if they're here, they want to
But-
retain something.
But then why do they come here? I mean, it's almost a contradiction to say, well, I love my culture, but I'm in a different culture.
Well,
Well,
thank
I-
goodness they retain some of it because Indian food's one of my faves.
It is very good.
I mean, I'd be really
Yeah.
sad if I left that behind.
They
Yeah.
pray over the dish.
Yeah, I
too.
love Indian
Whatever,
Yeah.
as long as I'm eating it and it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
At any
I don't know, they came here to earn more money
That's it.
usually,
Yeah,
to
you
do
got
that.
it.
I mean, that's why my Greek ancestors came, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, like, and, they didn't leave their customs for a while.
Yeah.
Nobody comes here to lose their customs. They come
No.
here because what they have is not good enough
Good
and they
there,
want
yeah,
more.
they want more, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
That's
Some
one.
people
But they're
Well, that's
uncomfortable, they're
religious
uncomfortable
persecution.
leaving their
Persecution.
customs behind. I
Yeah.
mean,
Religious persecution.
Persecution is another good reason why people come.
Yeah, it is, yeah,
Political
the current
founding
immigrants, and then also the ones back in the early days of the Republic, but, you know, the Italians and the Greeks and, you know, most of the people that came over just to better themselves financially, basically.
Yeah, starvation sucks.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
knew there was
exactly.
one group of people who sought political refuge, and they call themselves women. Because there's some countries that being a woman is a dangerous thing to be.
It is here in the
Yeah,
United
And so
States.
In
they
India.
apply
Very dangerous here in the
Here?
United States. Yeah. Well, how
Anyway,
many
let's-
women can like walk out at night?
Let's
by
try and stay on
themselves.
topic, please.
Well, I don't notice, but somewhat topically,
Okay.
Hindu speaking, I see mosques, I see Korean churches, which are Korean Christian churches, but whatever. I don't recall seeing Hindu
Temples.
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 Adams Road.
We do have one
Yeah,
now.
north, there's a hill on Adams Road that's seemingly the highest point between Birmingham and Rochester.
Wow.
There's this hill, and,
And there's a
and
temple?
they had a temple there for years, and they've expanded it. It's quite beautiful now, with a dome. Now it has a
Really?
dome on it,
Oh, I
Wow.
thought that,
at the top of the hill.
my bad, I thought that was Muslim.
You know what I'm speaking.
I am
of. You
now,
know,
yes,
do more
but
church
I
hopping.
didn't, I thought it was
That's Hindu.
Muslim. Okay, it's Hindu.
Yeah, no, Muslim would have the turrets. Although
You see when I
you have to go
do
to Dearborn
like
for that.
the Hindus did with the women, and they were, you know, like probably worse actually in many ways than the Muslims, which seems incredible, but that's what I discovered. I'm talking about the ancient world, but they're not too nice now even. Rape is very, very high in India.
You
India's
hear those
terrible.
news, all stories on NPR all the time.
It's
Oh,
been in the news,
come
yeah.
on.
Yeah, and it's not better after all the bad publicity they got, you know?
So are you saying from this, so karma, reincarnation, separate from Hinduism?
No, it's part of
It's
Hinduism,
part of-
it's just separate from, you don't have to really believe in a deity,
Okay,
some branches.
but they want you to believe in, well, used to want you to believe in karma.
They still do.
So
They
it's part
still
of, but
do.
you said something, you said it's considered part of natural
Yeah, natural
Natural
laws.
versus the,
Yeah,
so it is somewhat separate.
then,
Is it a separate full,
Religion.
than religion?
But
Then,
you know,
belief in
it's
gods.
just religion because it's
Carvaka.
supernatural, think
I
about it.
understand, no, I get that
Oh,
it's
okay, I'm sorry.
supernatural, I'm saying how they perceive it, because
Oh, I
you-
see,
Who's
I
that?
get it. I
You
see.
seem to give the impression that it was separate because you even said that these atheists from before still held on to, some of them held on.
Yes,
Some of them
yes,
do
they
that.
did.
So it's separate
Did
from
that,
the,
yeah.
from the God.
Yes, it is, it's
And
separate from God.
Hinduism is about their
For
various
some
gods.
people, for some philosophies, for some schools, remember there's a whole bunch of
Right,
schools and
yeah.
there
There's the
still are.
Carvakas.
Can't keep them straight
Huh?
in a million
The
years.
Charvakas,
Charvakas, yeah.
Charvakas did not believe in karma.
No, they did not
Yeah,
at
so
all.
which atheist are you referring to?
There were a lot of atheist philosophers that had and schools that had abandoned the idea of God, as I was reading at the
But not
beginning.
karma.
But not
they
karma,
did not.
that's what
They,
I'm-
yeah, this is the thing. This is the big thing in the East. Same thing with Buddhists. A lot of Buddhists will claim and swear
Not
and
a
carry
religion.
on that they're atheists and blah blah blah. But when you
They
actually, you
believe in
know,
reincarnation.
like poke them a little further, you'll find out that they believe in karma at least.
But that's not belief, theism is belief in a God, atheism is not belief in a God, okay, so,
Yeah.
but believing, they didn't say God created karma, you said that earlier
No,
in the thing.
it's- they
There's
can't
no,
They can't even
they
explain
don't even know,
the
right, they
damn
can't
thing.
explain it, so it
Yeah.
is separate from a theist
From a theist,
perspective, so
But
you
not
can,
from a supernatural.
So you-
But
right.
it's supernatural, it's
but you could be an
transcendent. Yeah.
atheist
Yes.
in India, but still potentially have been sold on karma being
That's
natural
what
law.
most of them are.
That's-
Yeah,
okay.
I shouldn't say most of them, a great many of them are. Same thing with
What do they
Buddhism.
call? What do they call
Yeah,
themselves?
how do you,
I think
so it
they
is
just call
separate.
themselves
It's-
Hindus.
Some put it together, but some separate it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really necessary to say like I believe in Shiva, but like if you don't believe in karma,
Then
it's
you're
a,
not a Hindu.
yeah, no, I don't think you can
But
be
you
a
could
Hindu.
believe in karma but not
Any of the gods. And
Yeah,
be Hindu.
yeah,
That's
you
what I
can,
was
you
trying
can
to
kind of
clarify.
discard that. In some
know that.
schools, be careful, because there's a lot of schools.
Right.
So Hinduism doesn't necessarily say you're religious, just that it's more of
Superstitious.
a ethnic.
Yeah,
No.
cultural. That's
No,
what I'm
it's-
back to.
no, it's
a-
I'm
it's
so
a-
confused.
It's a religion.
No,
Talked about that with you.
If
It's
it's
just
supernatural, it's a
levels.
religion, really, basically.
Yeah, I get
shouldn't,
that.
I should qualify that, but it certainly entails supernatural. So do the Buddhists.
But But even if you read a lot of the books that try and discuss the variety of religions, even they will hedge their bets, stay on the fence about whether Buddhism's actually a religion or Confucianism is actually a religion.
Yeah,
Because
try,
they don't worship them as gods.
well, they
Well,
try to
some do.
pretend that they're philosophies, but
Right.
they're not, they're religions.
But could I put this out here
We get a
about
lecture.
karma? I mean,
Didn't
generally our everyday life experiences, they generalize in the spiritual world. Like when we talk about how a father would treat a child in a loving way, then we impose that on a father like God, and we're the children, or
Sure.
he's the shepherd and we're the sheep, or we
Yeah.
have that kind
The
of stuff
sheep
going
is
on.
right.
Yeah, but karma, at least in its popular definition, which is like what goes around comes around,
Yeah.
what you put out there, you get back.
But that
Which
isn't.
isn't
That
what
is-
karma
that
really
is-
but
Similar to Newton's law of equal and opposite force, and there is some validity to that. If you walk through your life hating, you're generally not a loved person.
But is
Well,
that
yeah, but-
natural law, or is that
And,
just?
but within the context of
But
this
the wicked,
existence,
as a
there's some
history, a
validity
Greek
to
history
it.
professor that I had said the wicked thrive like green bay trees. So, I mean, karma does not really, now you could
Like if you
take.
go around hitting people, they're not gonna hit you. I mean, there is
Well, if you
some
if you
reality
have a
to that.
bigger gun, then
Right, but
no, there's not much reality
But they
to it. I
can-
don't think that there's justice
Well,
in this.
no,
when they
sounds-
generalize it to the spiritual world, then they're talking about some magical thing.
Well, they're
But I
talking
think
about
cause and
you're
effect has
if
a
I
reality
had
to
a crippled hand, let's say, a lot of them would attribute it to the fact that I had done something in a
With that
former
in your
life.
past
Right, so that's
Yeah.
taking something
That's
that
awful.
exists in this plane of existence,
Yeah.
this world, and generalizing it to some spiritual multi-life
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that
Alternate
it doesn't
universes.
exist at some level here in the physical world.
Well, somewhat, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean,
well, see,
they
now you could just take this to the crazy land and say, well, now they're just talking about multiverses.
yeah,
They're just talking about multiverses
But they're
because you
not,
did
yeah.
something in
No.
this alternate universe, and then you came over here and you're.
So there's cause and effect between
No,
the two
I'm
universes?
just saying
or
you
you're
could go
saying-
crazy. I'm saying you could
But
twist
I'm just
science
saying
into
I'm saying that there,
crazy.
this is a tendency that I've found in life myself. That yeah, if you're a
Wish I
nice
found
person,
that.
if you're a nice
That's not-
person, you're more likely to have.
I wish
That's
I
nice
found
people
that.
around.
Well,
Mary, could you clarify that? Karma
Karma.
is the next life, right?
Yeah.
The rewards or
Well,
punishments.
it
in the next.
depends on the school again,
It's
but
not in
in
the current.
general, it's mostly the next life. There are some schools that say it operates right here.
Right
too.
here in the current life?
Yeah, but in the Buddhists in anyway, they say that that's a profound Western misunderstanding.
That's what I read.
Okay, yeah, that it's really the next life. So if I'm really lousy, if I drink too much, I might be then born into an alcoholic family or something. With terrible conditions. I mean, it's an awful thing, really. They're blaming you for things that
Someone
you don't
else
have
did.
any control over. I
Mhm.
mean, like what family you're born into, or physical defects,
Yeah, in the
or your-
multi-life
or your
context,
class
that's true.
position, or whatever. I mean, any of these things.
But back to the gods.
Yeah.
How does I'm trying to look for a connection between this karma and it seemed to me you said there really wasn't one. It was absorbed into, it's superstition, but there isn't really a theological explanation for it, or well, they don't attempt to provide a theological
Well, but they
explanation
believe
for
in it.
I understand, but where do the gods come in? That's my question.
Well, it's like Buddhism. You notice, like, even pure Buddhism, that was really didn't have gods and all these concepts. And you notice people like that kind of thing. And all of a sudden they have demons and layers of hell and angels and,
Well, what's all the bathing in the sewage of Ganges?
oh, I knew that at one time and I can't
I
remember
mean,
what was it.
which
I
of
think
these
it's
which
like
of these attach to this whole karmic superstition, and which of their practices or
Are
cultural
cultural? Can
things
you
attach to a theistic, deistic, whatever?
I think it would depend what school you embraced.
So and you're saying there's tons of them.
Yeah.
So then, okay, if this group was to travel to say Taliban, Afghanistan, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But if this group was to
Real bad.
travel to India in general, name a place, we would not be in trouble.
Well, unless you're a woman and you're alone someplace.
Well, yeah,
and they
but
decide to
that
rape you.
aside, I'm talking superstition. I mean, we would not be in trouble because generally speaking, they're so diverse in their
Generally, it
superstitions.
seems to be, people say that they don't have this concept of heresy, the Eastern religions, but It seems to me that they do, and they're always like killing each other in India over their different
Burning their
religions.
temples down.
Are they?
Yeah,
Oh,
There's a Hindu
continuously.
nationalist movement.
yeah,
You
I'm
know,
very
Gandhi
ignorant of
was
it, I must
killed
say.
yeah.
by a Hindu nationalist, which
Yeah.
is strange because he was Hindu, but there's differences, within the ranks. There was sectarian violence, so they can be just as violent as Muslims.
Okay.
And those Sikhs
yeah.
too, they're a kind of a
They're
warrior
more-
class.
Well, but they were more persecuted, being a minority.
Yeah, they were, but actually they did some assassinations
killed-
also, they were often hired for that. As a matter of fact, I understand that they make great security guards and have great security systems here. Great people to hire, if you have enough money. So, this is a tradition that they grew up in.
I think the danger in overlooking the karma as not a religion is that someone will approach you as an atheist and say, well, I'm an atheist and it's okay to believe in karma.
Yeah,
It's not a religion, it's not a god, so you can believe in it, but we're faced with the same problem with
Superstition.
evidence. There's no evidence, so why
well,
would I?
this is how
Excellent.
American Buddhists are embarrassed a lot of times, because I've asked several of them.
Yeah, where's your
Like,
evidence?
Okay, well, no, I don't even get there. I just ask them like, how do you feel about, transmigration and what have you? And they go, oh, we don't bother with that, and we Americans don't bother. See that, we don't bother with that. Oh, that isn't really important. Doesn't it sound like the Christian thing? This isn't important.
But we
that
don't,
isn't
we don't practice that in the Bible.
Yeah,
Just
no,
don't-
we don't.
It's in there, but that part doesn't count anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's exactly about where, American Buddhists are, a lot of them. But you know what, when I've read on Buddhism by Buddhist theologians that are modern Buddhist theologians, they say that that's, intrinsic to Buddhism. So if you're not accepting that, you're not into any kind of
You
like,
mean the Enlightenment?
real Buddhism.
Yeah.
So Americans, I don't know where they are, it's like they are with,
Well, it's romanticized, because
Right.
they're
Thank
not
you.
in the culture.
Yes.
yeah,
They're-
It's an
Excellent
alternative
way to
to
put it.
Christianity.
Jewish
and
Christianity, and
the
they
Mhm.
feel good about
the
it.
Abraham religions, so they
Yeah.
can still be spiritual.
The Jewish Buddhist, the Jew-boo, it's
The
called.
Jew-boo,
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
Jew-boo.
yeah, I've seen it.
Former Jew that finds Buddhism, in some LA retreat.
Oh, wonderful.
And fills the void that he's looking for.
The atheist Buddhist, too.
Right.
Yeah, again, I would say, well, then you're really not an atheist.
No.
Well, I mean, I agree, but I have a friend who's Buddhist now, and if you were to ask him, he'd say, is he an atheist? He thinks religions are stupid, but I'm like, but you're a Buddhist. Yes, but it's different. It's more of a spiritual way of.
Well then,
I
That's
mean, he
what
starts going on, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
That's
It all
what
sounds
they
like
say.
crazy.
They
stupid talk.
always
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
American Buddhists always say
Always
that.
do
And I
that.
suppose
Yeah.
English Buddhists, everybody from the West. But, and they always try to say it's a philosophy. You've encountered that, Norm.
Yeah, so I've been challenged by saying, well, then there's lots of other philosophies, and they're said better, and they're more contemporary in their thought, and why would I just rely on one philosophy when I can choose the best from many different philosophies, being eclectic? Why would I say I'm a Buddhist when existentialism also has lots of stuff, objectivism has
Yeah,
stuff.
that's a good argument.
yeah.
I like that.
Pragmatism,
I'm gonna
yeah.
use that next
Well,
time.
yeah.
I
I mean-
wouldn't say I'm just this.
That's why people become philosophers and not ministers. I mean, they want to
Yeah.
look at different
They want-
perspectives
Yeah,
and different
exactly.
ways to perceive
Yeah,
life
exactly.
versus,
Mhm.
we're only
Yeah.
looking
So
at
what,
this way.
what do you call it when you believe in whatever religion serves you best at the moment?
Pragmatism.
Pragmatism.
Yeah, that's
You
a
know,
good.
There's a guy there with a sword saying, are you subscribe? Yeah, I subscribe.
Practicality.
Yeah,
you know,
Practicality.
Oh, all the cute girls happen to be in, okay.
That's why my husband
More
said he
money?
started religion.
Are you serious?
He said he couldn't find a girlfriend, couldn't get laid, but then he found someone who was in a church, and that's how he started. That's how he started.
At least he's
There's the
honest.
illusion that the good girls are in church.
And then he
Wow.
went crazy for a while, and I tried to believe all of it, and then went crazy again, and realized it was all crazy.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, hormones are a very fascinating thing.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They'll
guess
do all
so.
sorts of
You believe in those.
weird things.
yeah. You might
Yeah, I
as well
believe in those.
believe in hormones. Believe in
Science.
hormones. They
Hormonism.
influence behavior very,
Science.
very
They
strongly.
do.
Actually, William James had that philosophy. Although that's been disputed several times, but he really said that, the cash value of a belief. And it's so American, and of course he was an
Yeah.
American philosopher, but people say that idea is misunderstood, but it is not misunderstood. James really thought that as long as it served you, then it was okay.
But he was a Christian, wasn't he?
No, he really wasn't. He investigated a lot of like psychic happenings and just to see were they real, and he never found anything that was authentic. So he always had an open mind, but no, I think he thought that it was okay. I mean, their father had been a Swedenborgian, and he almost had a nervous breakdown once. He had this devastation. I guess that was that existential anxiety. It was very strong, and then he went to Swedenborgian, which Sartre says, of course, is the cop-out. If you get that great anxiety.
Tell us what that Swedenborgian is.
Gosh, you tell me or
That's
somebody
Christian.
look it up, because I
Is
never
that-
understood it
Is that a
completely.
Christian sect?
It's a Christian,
Yeah.
religion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is,
It's
it
it's
is.
a wacky.
It's very, it's
fundamentalist.
very,
Back to you spoke of Indian and Greek cross-pollination or no evidence thereof.
there is no evidence.
And I just want to get your sense on when the same idea crops up in a couple of places. I mean, why would that be? Is it because of some universal human experience, or
Intelligence.
it's a foregone conclusion?
Intelligence.
Or yeah, but
I
to
think
see
so. I
the
think
same
once
idea.
in a while,
Yeah.
I think these ideas pop up.
Yeah.
I mean, probably, these ideas probably pop up among common people, and they're afraid to say.
Yeah, right.
They don't
So the
want.
strong, charismatic personality
Right.
Brings
says
it
it
out.
out loud.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they
Says
don't
it out
want the
loud.
social
Yeah.
disapproval or what
Mhm.
have you. I've read books written by, women that say that their mothers were atheists and they discovered it later, but they didn't publicize it. And I taught a class at Osher in Ann Arbor, and it was a lot of older people, and three of the ladies said that they participated in church functions all their lives and cooked for the dinners and did this and that because they liked the socialization, but they never believed anything like that.
I think that's
Fascinating.
real common.
I think
Actually,
it
I think
is.
it is.
I
Oh,
talked to a guy just this
Yeah.
week,
Mhm.
and he, I started mentioning something about religion, and he says, well, he's Catholic. He's a professor in physics, and
Excuse me.
he's Catholic. And I said, really? So, I mean, how do you... And he said, well, first of all, the Catholics don't really encourage you to study the Bible.
That's true.
That's
Because
true.
that can throw you off right
Yeah, they
there.
don't, yeah.
They
Catholics
want you
don't
to-
learn the
And,
Bible very well.
They don't want you to, because then you ask questions.
Well, you
Mhm.
start
Yeah.
interpreting things,
That's why they
bad,
used
bad.
That's why they used to speak it. I went to high mass as a kid. They'd sing it in Latin because we
Mhm.
weren't allowed to hear the real words.
It would be so cool to listen to.
Yeah, well,
I wouldn't
go back
mind
in
doing that.
time. I'm sure you can do it.
Yeah, there's still a
But,
lot of
uh,
services.
They still have,
Yeah.
But then I
Oh,
asked him, well,
They
do
haven't done
you
it.
believe in God? And he says, well, I have a healthy skepticism about the whole thing. But yeah, but you go to church all the time.
So he's a
What?
practicing Catholic.
Well, I guess practice makes permanent, but
yeah.
I
Well, if
mean,
he goes to
didn't
church-
believe is the bottom line. Is he?
Well,
He didn't
a
stand
lot
up
of
and
people
say, I believe in
identify
God.
themselves as Catholic again. So at some point, religion starts becoming cultural.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
starts becoming, familiar. So
You're not alone.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
kind of that thing.
Well, I've heard people say, "Well, I'm Catholic, I'm this," but then when you talk to them, they don't have a religious thing. They're like, "Yeah, I don't really believe any of that
They
stuff."
don't even know
Well, then how do you
They don't
call
even
yourself
know they're damn
Catholic?
But wait a
Oh,
minute.
because my mom's Catholic.
Go
I was
ahead,
raised
Mark.
And,
Catholic.
they couldn't
They
quote one word of doctrine.
May I ask you both to consider that they're talking to someone who they know is an atheist,
So they might be
Or
just
skeptical
falsely
about
representing
religion.
themselves.
so they
Could
may
be.
be telling you what they think you want to hear
Mhm.
Oh,
to
good for
avoid
you,
any
Norm.
confrontation.
That's
Mhm.
Good for you.
Mhm.
I agree. I was in a church group for 4 years, and I thought everyone there was a strong Christian, and I said, well, let's just nail it down. What do we all believe? And I went first, and one after the other, more than half the group really didn't believe. And well,
Why
we're
were
here
they
for
there?
a common.
Yeah, what do you
But you
waste
went
your
I mean,
time?
it was a social thing. I mean, we were all
Yeah, it
good
is a
friends.
social thing.
Yeah.
It
is
was
a
like
lot.
group therapy, and it really wasn't about religion, but it was a church that organized it, and, and so after.
So then what does Indian culture do, Mr. I work with all the Indians? What do they do over, a lot of people that come over will gather, I mean, the Polish, the Catholic Church, so where exactly does the Indian culture go then to gather, to come together, to meet, to visit with each other?
Well, besides,
This church would be common in every
besides
other.
the temples, I mean,
You
so
said
they-
there's only one.
well, no, I didn't say there's only one, I said,
Oh.
there's a big one on Rochester Road, but then in Canton, there's also a
Well, they have
large
a huge
community.
Indian culture,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
You know, Oakland County
Community.
has one of the largest Indian populations in the United States, so, yes, there's one in a corridor there in Rochester, and there's another corridor in Canton,
Okay.
and I may even be forgetting another area as well, so,
Hmm.
if you want good Indian food, those are
Right,
two
that's
areas.
where you go.
Those are the
Up in
areas.
Rochester,
So they are
Go to
meeting in a temple.
so they have a temple, and they have a
Okay.
lot of what they call feast days, which are
Okay.
religious holidays, you know, and then I'll see them with their extra mark, you know, on their face in the afternoon after they came back from the temple, both the men and the women in some cases. have
Ash
the
Wednesday
mark.
kind of
It's like
thing.
the Ash Wednesday, but it's complete, according to them, it'd be completely different.
Yeah.
I think they live with contradictions. You talked about the contradictions. I think that they probably also have their doubts. I never really pressed them on it.
We wanna be in a club,
Yeah,
we wanna be loved, we don't wanna be alone.
but what is it, you know, what does that say about a human being who can hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time? What,
That we're
Who's the
human
average
beings?
person?
who are we dealing,
Yeah.
who are we dealing
People,
with?
The average-
So
yeah,
that-
people do that a
Yeah,
lot.
but,
Yeah.
but isn't that sort of a frightening thing to speak to someone, because you don't know, am I speaking to the religious guy, or
Or am I
the
speaking to the
non-religious
second?
guy?
That's a good point too, yeah.
Norm, that's
There's
very
Yeah,
a-
you never
yeah.
know, actually.
If we're
Which one am I dealing
a
with?
mix of contradictions, how do I know who I'm dealing with?
Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah,
do I know what I can trust, what they tell me? I mean, wouldn't you rather deal with a person who was consistent and had the same logical
Yes.
set of beliefs?
Yes.
through-
Please.
through- Even if it was something very subjective, like, I like chocolate. So when we're around town, you don't hear me say, oh, I hate chocolate, I never eat chocolate. You wouldn't want to hear that from me if I had just told you a week earlier that I like chocolate.
Of course not.
Well, if I saw you eating 10 tons of
Then I'd call
chocolate
you a
one week,
hypocritical little snot if you
Yeah.
said you
No.
hated it the next day.
But it mattered whether I like chocolate or not. You could say, well, who cares whether Norm says he likes it or he doesn't like it? What does it matter to you? Well, it
Can I
does matter.
trust Norm?
Can I
You
trust
wanna
Norm?
trust, yeah.
Can I believe Norm?
Yeah.
And I think that dual behavior happens and people I know, it's like, they go to church and they have never had premarital sex. You know, I mean,
So
that's
they say.
how
well,
they're
that's
gonna
their
put it.
problem.
Yeah,
Or-
or you.
do you believe
You
them
know?
though?
Oh, no, they're absolutely lying. The only people that haven't are the ones that haven't had the opportunity. And then they stand on their high horse saying, no, I'm celibate because I've
Yeah.
chose it.
I chose
But as
it.
soon as opportunity arises,
Yeah.
you know,
I was
It's there.
tempted, I fell, damn.
There's- no,
I'm
my
forgiven.
grandmother told me do not never marry someone until you've lived with them. Test drive that car.
Well, good for
Those are
her.
my
Oh
grandmother.
my
grandmother
goodness.
said that.
Good for
Excellent.
her.
Ahead of her time.
Wow, test drive the
Excellent.
car, I
Is she a
like that.
Christian?
Well, they were all raised Catholic. She was Hungarian, but my mother, my grandmother, they all renounced. They all stopped going. They all said it was horseshit.
Yeah.
Really?
It's great.
Oh, it's great.
It's great. Yeah.
But so back to the whole Indian thing.
Yes, please.
Because
Oh, yeah.
I am just, well, the dual thing was that I'm just fascinated at the whole, I'm fascinated at the karma, reincarnation, not being God-based, not being a deist-based type of belief, but then having all these deists, and then, I mean, you keep
And
saying
don't
there's
forget their scriptures, very important to them.
I can never say the words, I will never be able to speak
But-
Indian.
The
but
Vedas,
but
yeah, I know,
Bhagavad
it
Gita?
drove me nuts, I had to look up pronunciations
Right,
for like
I
100
don't know,
years.
but, yeah, but their scriptures, do their scriptures deal with the reincarnation and the natural?
Different scriptures say different things, as most scriptures do, yeah.
Right, so it does at least touch on it, or it comes into
Oh,
it.
yeah, it's very
But
important.
not as a God on high kind of thing, or managed by a God, or.
No, but they throw in the gods too, depending. The Upanishads, I think, are not very religious, and they're very old. If they, let me see. Actually, everybody's disputing the ages now, but this was this was what I was able to get. Although that's really in play. The Upanishads were before the 6th century BCE. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata were 6th to the 1st centuries BCE. These are very old scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were redacted up to the 4th century, which means
Really?
that they would be edited and things put out and what have you. And the Vedas are 1500 BCE up to about 1600 BCE. They're old stuff, you
Yeah.
know. The Greeks didn't have anything like that. They had the, when things were fine, they had the Iliad and the Odyssey, and those were their so-called standards for behavior, and it was really for aristocrats. It didn't make much sense at all.
I guess I'd always thought, or somehow connected in my head, probably incorrectly, that the Indian, their god system was similar to the Greeks and the Romans in the sense that no gods were bad. They adopted the gods of wherever they went. Oh, your Zeus is like our, wherever the hell the equivalent is in, trying to think.
Jupiter?
Yeah, your Zeus is like our Jupiter, so we can worship all. I mean, they were pretty open. You know, people had house gods. They had little,
Yeah.
family
Oh, yes.
gods.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
guess I thought that the Indian system
Stove
was very
They
gods.
have a lot of gods.
Yeah, I know they
They
have
have a lot of
multiple
gods.
gods.
So did
But I
the-
thought they were it was just a very kind of an open, they didn't really have a
I don't
set-
think so. You can see that the conservatives are exercising a lot of things that the sacred books are not, just historical things. They're real and to be taken literally. So
So name a literal Indian scripture that's
that's what's his name said. Jeez. Here's what they were trying to get into America: the Ramayana and the Mahabharata.
yeah, I know, but name something in their scripture that's
Well, the
No,
ancient
that's
Hindu
absurd.
scriptures
Yeah.
contain precise calculations of the speed of light and
Okay.
exact distances between planets in the solar system. And that is discussed because somebody that I know that's an Indian atheist, and I think you know the person too, Norm.
Don't say a name, just
Showed me, yeah, I'm not
the
gonna,
idea.
yeah, I'm not gonna give the name, but showed me some commentary by, Hindu physicists and, priests and what have you. There was a big commentary on had they, discovered the speed of light.
Did they?
And then they had,
Yeah,
no,
did
they
they?
really didn't, no.
I mean, I don't
Far
know.
off
But they
am
make
I?
a good argument like the creationists do.
Okay. So they come
No,
up
they
with-
didn't at all. This is
Okay.
just BS. This is why
I
we're
mean, I would
Well,
start
at least
believing it if
they-
they,
wait,
Well,
Wait,
I
but
don't know.
1,500 years ago, they were at least acknowledging that there were planets at a distance to go between them. I mean, this is a good
Well,
one.
yeah, but
Somewhat
it
more
really, when you read the
The
stuff,
nuts.
you can see
Okay.
it isn't really that, what I saw anyway.
Okay.
And what I saw was, I think, considered a fairly learned, discussion. The person didn't really believe it. He was just kind of interested in.
So they have conservative crazies like we do, and they have liberal.
Look at this guy got her book
Well, yeah.
banned, in court.
Yeah.
And they've gone
Well,
after other
only
books,
because they
too.
have a crazy censor type, no separation of religion and state.
That's
free
exactly
speech
it.
law.
It's not the
True.
law. Yeah,
But-
we don't have a law like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If we did, I'm quite sure that there would be a lot of churches
Well, that
using
was
that
a-
on a daily basis.
By the way, but off topic, the UK considered the same law to
Did they
say that
really?
you could not criticize somebody else's
Recently?
religion. It was,
The UN
they
too?
can't enforce law the way.
No,
say the
yeah,
country
of
can.
course, yeah, like the UK.
But yeah, the UK considered the law. I don't know exactly what
Interesting.
year it was.
Was this during all the
This was after,
uprisings of the Muslims and when they
Yeah.
got crazy about everything?
it was after 9/11 and probably after the
Salman
riots.
Rushdie and the whole,
Yeah, they felt that this is the way to keep the peace, but it's not the right way.
no, it's not.
Actually, Martin Amos, so during that Rushdie problem, he was at a private dinner party, he said, with Prince Charles. And Charles was complaining, and he was obviously very unsympathetic to the Rushdie situation, that criticizing people's religion and upsetting people's
He
feelings.
wrote a book of fiction.
Yeah.
That's the part that blows my mind. It
Well,
wasn't
that's-
even
well-
it wasn't even intended as a formal critique. It was a book of fiction.
Yeah, but he was not a believer.
Yes,
Rushdie,
obviously.
they knew that Rushdie was
Yeah,
not a
I
believer.
know.
so.
Well, see, if you've been a Muslim and you're an apostate, you're supposed to be put to death.
Well, like I
Right.
said, we would
It's
not
on
be
the
welcome
schools.
over there, but we would apparently be welcome in India.
Yeah, I
'cause
don't,
it's
yeah,
okay
they're
to
not, they're not as
Mhm.
intolerant in India, but the things I've learned about how they treat women, I'm very, very unhappy with that culture. Extremely unhappy.
Different than how many non-Western
It's
cultures.
worse, it was worse.
The Carvaka, did they mention anything about women's rights?
You know, that I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
I was gonna
don't
say,
think
is
so.
there a
I don't think
scriptural
so.
or religious
It
reason
wasn't-
for it?
It hasn't emerged, if it has.
But Reese is asking about why women were treated
I'm asking
so
if
poorly.
if there's a religious reason, a scriptural reason.
It's part
Say yes.
religious, but it's also part cultural. You'll see when
No
I
different
give
than
my
us.
talk on it. They were like
No, I mean,
really worse.
Well, we were property, so same thing.
Well, you can't separate their
Christian
religion
belief.
and their culture.
It's a sad.
Thank you for a wonderful discussion. It's been a great evening, and may the Hindu force be with you.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
Thank you so much.